So I guess, do we know about Carly or Holly?
Yeah, they both should be good. Expecting them to be fine, barring any last-minute setbacks.
What do you think about the news today that the schedule is going to move to 50 games next year? Do you like that?
So I was there's two sides to this. I think the first one was I always want what's best for the players, and I think this, the exposure for this incredible league, like, yes, we want that. It's a great thing for the league. But then the other side to me is I'm always so concerned about performance and health. And that's, you guys know I've spoken a lot about that this year in these press conferences, how it's such a focus of ours and keeping the players healthy. We want to sustain and extend their careers. And I think it's really hard to do that when it's an even more condensed schedule. And I think, I also, me, I like my practice time. And I have noticed a difference this year just in terms of the quality of play that we have in the games preceding practices, because it's such good opportunities to tighten things up. But obviously, I want what's best for this league in terms of exposure for the players, business, and all of that. So it's two sides. And I just think, as a league, we got to make sure we keep investing in health, performance, and really pay an eye to all these metrics.
What do you think about this rivalry game tonight? How exciting is it? And just kind of, what do you think about the fans getting a chance to really see two teams take each other on again? I mean, I know we saw in the preseason, but again, in this space, in the fire pit for the first time.
Yeah, I think it's great. You always want something for the fans to look forward to even more. And I think I love seeing what our business team did to really hype this game up a little bit, and just how they marketed and presented it. So obviously our closest geographical neighbors, and we play Seattle a few more times this season. But lots of opportunities tonight. I think this is the start of a good 5-game stretch for us. So I think we really want to make sure that we're coming out being very clear and precise with our execution.
Back to the 50 games, is there a solution in terms of like striking that balance, in terms of like maybe extending the calendar on the back end, or has there been any discussions about that?
Yeah, Tristan, so I haven't heard about that. My main concern, in all honesty, is the players who still play internationally. That to me is, where when you're getting that long kind of club season and then you come straight to the W, I think that would perhaps make any health issues even more apparent. So I think that would be the main one for me. And just, I think, we have an incredible performance department here, so I fully trust them, but we are going to have to be very intentional and, continue to just dive into that, because I think that is one of the keys in the modern era in terms of, player health and availability is really the number one factor determining winning and team records. So, it's an important issue.
Where are you guys at with just the concept, like scientifically, of load management?
Yeah, so I think it kind of you kind of see it in the whole program in terms of just even how we rotate and the minute system and the short stints and the reason we play 10. The number one reason we do that is the player health, and then the idea of giving it your all in your stint. So whether you play 3, 4, 5 minutes, it's the idea is you're giving everything, and then you come back to the bench and you're ready for your next one. So looking at our metrics, we're still doing we're like top of the league in a number of metrics in terms of sprint speeds, decelerations, load output. So we are working really hard physically, and I think it shows. And I think the pace too offensively has been much better the last 2 games. I think a lot, looking at the why behind the data, I think a lot of it was our defense, naturally, when we're playing with more full court pressure and all of that. But I think adding more pace offensively, it's going to help us, and we're kind of seeing that in the metrics.
Is having more games and what you said about wanting to protect players, is that going to change the way you guys approach using the developmental spots at all to have those extra bodies?
Yeah, great question, Sean. I think it's even more important with how those dev spots are used, going forwards in the future. I think it's especially with us, the way I look at it is I think we are trying to do some very specific things offensively, defensively. So I think the more time you have to get players acclimatized to the playbook and what those principles are, I think it really makes a difference. But I think everything we're kind of we've started with this year in terms of process-wise, the minutes, I think that will be even more important next year. I think maybe the competitive advantage becomes greater because players are fresher, et cetera, et cetera.